hello, and welcome back to another week of the TP World Tour picks and bets. Good one today, Tom. 5 shows so far this season, 2 victories, coming in hot off your Thorbjorn Olesen selection last week. You've been high on him all season, and it came to fruition with a victory last week. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely felt like it was one you wanted to happen because the price was obviously decreasing, but by the same token, I never felt like it got too low, especially in the context of the fields that he was playing in. So, like 20 to 1 last week was, I still thought good value, or 22 to 1, I think it was best price. And he was really comfortable for the most part, right? He had a couple of holes where he looked a little bit, I wouldn't even say shaky. I think he got a little bit pumped up on the par five. He hit a 7 iron well over the green. And he missed a couple of chances on the back nine. I sort of text like Brad and Jason was like, this is over. Like he's like Nikolai's going to do it, and then obviously like he just came back and rallied really well. So yeah, I was really impressed with him. And also, people, eagle-eyed viewers may notice that I wore this shirt last week, and it's not because I haven't done any washing. It's simply because I wore this shirt when Victor Perez won and when Olesen won. So until we lose again, I'm not going to change.
Hey, I like it. Good vibes only. I'm down with that. Now, I'll be happy here to say that our 1,000 to 1 selection did make the weekend, and he had a bunch of birdies. Gudmundur Kristjansson, I was kind of impressed. He kind of blew up on Friday afternoon. I think he was +3 in his final 2 holes, or else he'd have been top 20 going into the weekend. We just love 1,000 to 1 sweat while you get a victory out of one of the lower selections, too. No, fun week. And actually, I'm quite excited for this week too, Tom. I mean, this is something where we haven't seen this golf course on the DP World Tour, what, in 4 years now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, so it's good to have it back in the rotation. So for those, I mean, we've never had a show on this course,
we
right?
haven't.
So this is DLF, and it is, I guess, DLF Golf and Country Club. It's built by Gary Player, and it was probably one of the more interesting courses you're going to see all year. It is going to frustrate the absolute heck out of every golfer in the field at some point. Those who have patience will stay and be able to find themselves. You're going to have doubles, triples, quadruple bogeys. Gallagher, who was the last winner here, I think he had a quadruple bogey on the day he won, right? It is something where this course is, I don't know what the best way to describe it. Rinky dink, we would say in the US, where there's gimmicky, right? Like there's
Yeah,
some gimmicky type of things. What more can you expand upon on DLF?
sometimes it gets a bit unfair. I think
Yeah, that's a good way
it's
to describe
it's
it too.
it's a little bit tricked out, right? It's weird because it said it was really long. It didn't play that way. But more importantly, you just need to be very accurate. I think off the tee and into the greens, just pounding them. It's been so long since I watched it. It was 2019 actually, the last time they were here. And when you look, it was Gallagher beat Masahiro Karamura that year. Matt Wallace beat Andrew Beef Johnson the year before that. And actually, SSP Charasia beat Gavin Green by 7 strokes the first time they played it as a
This was the SSP Open at
yeah,
one time.
he was awesome, and actually he's playing this week, which maybe people will have a look at him for old time's sake. But to me, like that lists off like some of the best of recent years, and it kind of also when you look at probably not veterans because Matt Wallace wasn't a veteran when he won here, but maybe mature beyond his years in terms of contention. Gallagher obviously a veteran, SSP Charasia a veteran. Like I think you have to have this kind of really methodical and calm approach to these types of events to really hang about. And I think we've got to take that into consideration. I wouldn't want people that are a bit erratic, put it that way.
Yeah.
Which is funny
Certainly
actually,
I
because one of my
was.
picks it actually is, and I should probably I'm gonna have to claw that back in about 3 picks time. But like it, typically you want people that I think are got a good head on their shoulders.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And we mentioned this course in even recent previews when we talked through my Beef Johnson selection, right? Like
Yeah,
that was, we didn't get the difficulty we expected a couple weeks ago. That was a Singapore event, right?
yeah,
Yeah. And but this is kind of what I was mentally preparing for, right? And you like to see golfers, in my opinion, not that it's a course comp, but play well at some of the more difficult events. I always think of Valderrama. as one of those. Hero Indian Open had been one of those too. Even some of the Qatar events have played difficult when the conditions have popped up. Not necessarily links exactly, but courses that I'm going to think about when these guys are put to the ultimate test. And no surprise when you look at the odds leaderboards, right? You're going to see Thorbjorn, who has not found any success here in his career, as low as 8 to 1, as long as 11 to 1. Nikolai 12 to 1. Robert McIntyre 14 to 1. And then I am going to, and this is different, right? Normally, I'm not the one starting with selections, especially when we get to 20 to 1. But I just feel so keen on one of our old friends here, and that's Yannick Paul. You mentioned the methodical. You mentioned somebody who has just kind of got that all-around game. On the Challenge Tour, he found success at some of these very difficult courses. I believe it was a Challenge Tour final. Paul Williams had highlighted that he had excelled at in the past, which was one of the like 6 or 7 under champion. His victory, I believe, or another one of his top Challenge Tour performances came on a difficult golf course. He played okay in the Corn Ferry Tour Championship, which is one that can be that way too. And last week, I mean, you could argue that he played. I mean, it's hard to say that he played better than Torbjorn, but he played exceptional
He
last week as
he
well,
was
right?
really good. Like he was really good, and I took a lot of positive signs. As I said to you earlier, like I was really close to picking him. Got some unnecessary hate for his shorts and socks combination. I quite liked it. It's
Me too.
probably how I would step out on a golf course. But one thing I would say about Yannick Paul, last year, 8th at the Open d'Espagne, 21st at Valderrama, wins Mallorca, and he's
Yep.
just gone 34th second. Like to me, kind of signpost form, right? Like he's not the type of person who just does it out of nowhere. When you look at when he was second at the Sedell Open, he was 52nd in Catalonia, 16th for the British Masters. Before that, on the Challenge Tour, 8th, second, 8th. So I think he goes on these types of runs, and that's a really promising sign for someone that we're talking about this week.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, it's a low number, and I think there's a lot of arguments to be made on some of these guys, and we're gonna get deep on cards too this week. But here in that 20 to 40 range, I think you could make very, very strong arguments for a lot of golfers. I dip out a little bit deeper than your next selection here, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could make a case for everyone down to about 30 to 1, and even Ollison, like he hasn't actually played here, so it's not like he's been poor. He's just not
Mhm.
played the
Okay.
golf course, right? So 11 to 1 and 12 to 1 about those types of players, I think, is a bit short on a golf course that presents such volatility. Though is what I'd say. Joost Lausen was very close to being picked. He's 22 to 1 though, and I thought that was short enough. And instead, I've gone with Jung Hoon Wang, who we sort of flagged in the ones to watch preview we did with Barrel Fright,
Yep.
and
Yep.
also I think it was the first week in Singapore. I kind of thought about playing him, didn't, regretted it, and he's only gone on to finish third and eighth since, so he's in good form. And when you look at what he's done in his career, he won the Trophy Hassan 5 under, won the Mauritius Open 6 under, won the Qatar Masters 16 under, which can get tricky when the wind comes up. So he's perfectly suited in terms of like winning scores. When you look at the event itself, he actually finished a runner-up on a different golf course in Delhi, behind SSP Charasia by 2 strokes, tied with Anaban Lahiri as well. So again, don't remember there being too much correlation between two golf courses, but great to be that part of the world. And then you look at his start here. His first start, he finished 40th, but he was actually 9th at the halfway stage. And then he was 58th the following year, and he was 19th at the halfway stage. So to me, yes, he finished 40th and 58th, but he had the ability to shoot the kind of scores you need to stay in contention all week. And I think, one thing that really impressed me, they asked him in the interview, like, you've been in 18 months of military service, haven't touched a golf club. How are you this good at golf still? And he just said, well, I just swing it and hit it, and it's going well. And I just thought that was really refreshing. Like, I think there's some limited English in there that potentially doesn't want to expand on that answer, etc. But like, to me, it's like a freedom. He's playing with a lot of freedom. He's completely relaxed about where he is. Probably just grateful to be back playing golf consistently. And although he's 25 to 1, I think he's a decent value still.
Yeah. And probably knocks off a little competitive rust or, competition rust
Yeah,
being where he has been in multiple events already. And he did it too, in the Asian Tour International Series when he first came back too. Like he has found himself on tops of leaderboards often and early.
Yeah, and
Um,
really his career was like that, like straight off the
yeah,
bat. So there's really the only interruption with military service, which we see so often for these guys from Korea and things like that. And I just believe in his talent long term, and think he'll get things rolling this year.
yep, yep, absolutely. I think we're both like side by side on this next selection, 35s, 40s. I'll go. Tom, and I made a comment last week, and I will stand by this throughout the season. When Guido Migliozzi gets 50 to 1 and lower, that's when you have to really think through if he's going to be on my betting card just as a blind bet. But I mentioned the course comps. I mentioned kind of what we're looking for in ways in which to be successful here. And I truthfully, and maybe because it's I know his game or study his game or live and die by a shot tracker as much as anybody out there, but this is like a spot that I am jonesing for Guido at. Like the more difficult the test always has been when he has elevated his game, whether that was the fields or whether that was the course difficulty. He has competed his best when that those scores have been single digits, have been at the U.S. Open, when he's there with everybody else. When Rosner won in Qatar, that was I believe 7 under. Guido has just found a knack to be able to, probably because he can birdie with the best of them, but mixes in a ton of bogeys. And what was encouraging is his driver, even though he did miss the cut last week, was the best his driver has been in a substantial amount of time, gaining over a stroke per round in each of his 2 rounds. I would lean accuracy here if you can just avoid
Yeah,
the anything that comes into play when you have thick rough, but or not even thick rough, when you can just be in the fairway. I think it's always to the benefit. So 40s is tough. I'm not gonna lie. I would have hoped we could get him maybe out to the 60s here, but I just think, especially with next week. Next week's coming too. We do have the Magical Kenya Open, which is a major. A major. Put that down, folks. You say that the Players Championship's the fifth major. The Magic Kenya Open, higher above that. But so I really do think these are the tests that Guido is made for. So I'm going to stick with him at 40.
I think it's one of those things. Like I watch Guido Migliozzi, and the way you see his game, and when he's playing his best, you would think he's like just a birdie machine that likes low scoring events. And it's like to your point, he's not that. He's someone that relishes the tougher event, and I think it's his creativity and his like attitude towards it at such a young age for comparatively speaking for a golfer that like he just seems so okay with it being hard and doesn't whine and just okay, there's a ton of wind there, I'm just going to drive this bullet iron into the green and try and hold it. And I think he's actually at his best when he has to think. I think when it becomes like a little bit rinse and repeat with the driver, that's when he can get himself into trouble. So I think he's best at this type of thing. I have nothing other than feel as to why he will succeed this week, which is why I've struggled. But you are the Guido whisperer, so I will just leave you to it.
Well, when you bet him every week, Tom, at some point you
It's
have to
become
find
the
place.
whisper becomes a shout. Yeah,
Yeah, except when you give up, I guess last summer in the middle of it, and he still wins.
yeah,
But that was
that was
same
tough.
thing. Like that was a tough test there too, right?
Yeah,
Like
and
that
that's what
was,
I mean. Like
even
that,
though he got to 15 or whatever they got to, like that was a very difficult test.
and I just vividly remember that like that final hole, and even like in Abu Dhabi this year where it's really tough, like in certain
Yep.
holes, he just loved it. And another player like that, I'll jump straight into my selection. A bit more experience is Pablo Larrafa, and I just don't really get why he's 35 to 1. I was going to go with Loughton and just at 10 points bigger or even 15 points bigger in spots. I don't get why the guy who has 7 wins on tour, who I think only Thomas Bjorn in the field has got more. So of the people who've got a legitimate chance to win, Larafabel's the winningest player in the field. Um, just plays tough golf courses well. He's finished fourth here on his debut. He was third after round one a year later, didn't hold on. Two times he won last year, and he's kind of being treated differently to the. I know he's volatile, and this is back to the point I said at the start of the show where I said, "Oh, you don't take a volatile player," but like in contention, he's really strong, and I think about the likes of, I like Becker. I put him in like season-long teams, and I like Loughton and the comeback. But I think he belongs with them as opposed to 10 points bigger than them. And I certainly don't think he's 20 points bigger than kind of McIntyre and people like that.
I like him. I like him. He was almost on my betting card. Yeah, I just end up not littering sometimes, with 40 to 1 and under, 2, maybe
Yeah,
3. He probably would have been right there for me. I think Eduardo Molinari was another one that I seriously
yeah.
considered. But same thing, he's 28, right? Like it's not easy there. And when's his last win compared to how many
But
Pablo's ripped off,
I
right?
just think like even overall, I don't think Eduardo's got as many wins as him, right? Like he won three to get into that Ryder Cup very quickly, but other than that, I don't think he's maybe had like 5 or 6. No, he's had 3 wins. He had
Yeah,
3 wins. He had two in 2010 that got him into the Ryder Cup, and he had one 7 years later. So for a guy that has such a lofty reputation, he hasn't won a lot at this level.
yeah,
So maybe a little bit not to say that he can't. I really liked him before the prices come out, and he was a 5-time winner on the Challenge Tour, beating good players. I just think that we've got a player here in Larafabelle that proves it at this level consistently throughout his whole career. And yes, he's had a little bit of a lull every now and then, but it's never serious, I don't think.
yep, absolutely. Um, we jumped together on a co-pick here next,
We do.
correct? Yes.
Yeah.
You're the one who sold me on him, so I'll let you do it again.
Well, I thought you might have just passed it to me because you don't know how to say his name, which is definitely the same case for me. So on the commentary, they said Alexander Kanappa, and I think it's Napa. But a couple of times I've heard like the hard K in front of names before, and
Yeah. Yes.
like it's a bit like there's a footballer called Serge Gnabry, and I for years said that his name was Nabry. So it's one of those Nape, whatever. Um, Alexander Nape is 60 to 1 this week. I wanted to put him up last week, and I don't know why I didn't. I still I can't. I'm sick. Like when he was reading off all those birdies in a row last week on Sunday, I was like, what? Why did I not do this? Um, and basically, what it was, we didn't have reliable shot tracker, did we? So I just looked at the ball striking numbers from the week before, and he just had some really solid like ball striking numbers. He ranked sixth in ball striking that week. He was third in driving distance, 11th in driving accuracy, 45th though in greens and regulation. This past weekend, third in ball striking, 10th in driving distance, 12th in driving accuracy, and 18th in GIR. So just a lot more balanced. Obviously, didn't hit it as far, but I don't think he needed to. Just strikes me as someone that's just going to pound greens often. He has taken, obviously, a pretty substantial price cut, but I think that was more a reflection of the fact that he was far too big last week as opposed to what he should be this week. Like he was 10th at the Challenge Tour Grand Final. He started the season with 22nd and 27th place finishes in South Africa and Mauritius. And then he's gone 34th and 3rd the last 2 weeks. Like he's in really, really solid form. He missed those cuts in like the Middle East, but that's easily done. I think for a player of his skill level or talent level, I think it's probably fair to say. So the way he's hitting the ball, and to top it all off, he's played here before and finished 17th. He was 73rd after day one. So really nice bounce back from him for the rest of the week.
Yeah, he's as low in some spots like 30 to 1 over here, which is crazy. But yeah, you can get him out to 60 still. And I would not have pronounced that anywhere. I just assumed it was Nap, you know? Um, but
I'm not
I
sure.
like
I'm
it.
not sure. I mean, they could be completely wrong. I'm just going by what they said.
Yeah, and we talk about tour tip stuff, in general. So I know you've had Stanley on your podcast too. They do a little
Yeah.
stat ranking. He's been for what they mulled out for this week. There's his traditional statistics, like you mentioned, that they view for that, and he's been inside the top 10 from the stat model the last 2 weeks, which I find very interesting. Only golfer in the field that has back-to-back weeks like that. So I like that angle going into him. All righty. I don't know the price of this next guy because Tom, it's been cut left and right everywhere. And by the time this comes out on Monday evening, it could be even lower. But I, I mean, I talk to Bear Off, I talk to Axis and Jude all the time, and there was one golfer who we promised, no matter the price, because we figured it would be at least pretty big. This was going to be the week we went in on him. Brad's tipped him up too. I've seen Paul Williams on it. There's a lot of people on this, and it's a little scary, especially when it's a golfer who opened at 250 to 1. But He's down to hundreds, and I would still go in at 100. I really would. I am not scared. When it comes to a golfer, we bet in the first event of the year at 500 to 1. And finally, last week, he hit a stride. And that is Manu Gandis. Now he's played 3 events right on the DP World Tour after he was a 6-time winner last year on the PGA Tour of India. And you've mentioned this many times. There's a comfortability in location golf, location form, right? Not only has he gotten to play DLF this past year, where I believe he finished inside the top 10, I think it was second. Yeah, he finished second this fall at this event for it. But he got his stride over the weekend. He was probably I believe he was a top 10 player when you look at overall during the weekend. Pulling it up here, because he went out 3 under through his first 3 on Sunday. And I was like, okay, like this is gone this week. He ended up finishing 28th overall, but he started out slow last week and got better each of the rounds. That's something that we love to see. And then you bring it into a course where, again, familiar, I wouldn't say more familiar than most, but it's just all everything I look for colliding into it, and somebody who has gotten over the winner's circle many of times in this past year. So Manu Gandis for me is the one.
Yeah, I mean, look, you sold me on him, whatever it was, a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I have no negative things when the three of you are all getting together and making that kind of cloud pick, and even Brad's in there as well. Yeah, I don't have anything negative to say about Manu Gandas. Like we're talking about SSP Charasia, right? And he won SSP Charasia Invitational, so that's got to be good
Yes.
vibes.
Yeah, 100%. And so he hit the 11th best round on Sunday, 32nd best round on Saturday. Like he hasn't had those type of rounds yet. So it was good to see. I probably would have liked it anyway coming in, but you wouldn't have seen the cutting of the number if there wasn't that type of form. So I am definitely in. Again, he opened at 250s. He's down to probably close to 100. I still think it's worth chancing him.
Yep, no, I completely understand that. And like you say, he's got that winning form that we'd love to see. And yes, it's on a different tour, but
Oh, I got
different feel.
so excited I skipped over one of my picks too. So excited. Okay, I'll go to you, Tom, and then back to me because you got one left, right?
Yeah, I got one more. So
Okay.
I text the group this morning and I said it's 2023 and I'm considering betting Thomas Aiken at 100 to 1. And then I did it, right? I have no reason not to. He was so good ball striking last week. It just blows my mind that he was fourth in driving, actually first in greens and regulation, which is what we know Thomas Aiken can be. He's played once in India, won the Avantha Masters. So yes, it was a long time ago, and it probably is almost irrelevant considering the different types of golf course, right? But I'm going to hold on to that. 39 years of age, Thomas Aiken. He had these kind of little periods in his career where we thought he was maybe slightly better than he kind of produced.
Oh yeah.
And he won in 2011, won in 2013, won in 2014. Finished seventh in an Open Championship, 25th in the US Open. Like he's really, really solid. Like he's just that metronome golfer that can just go fairways and greens, like I said earlier. 8 Sunshine Tour wins in total. So experienced. I like the form that he showed last week. I feel a little bit like him. Like when we talk about Marcel Seam recently, Loughton recently, people like that, they're all right at the top of the market, and rightly so. Maybe this is a kind of little stretch for him where he can come back and do this as well. So I do like Thomas Aiken. There's definitely something about Thomas Aiken that happened recently, like that went really wrong for him, and that's why his form dropped. Like I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was off the course reasons. So potentially that would be a reason why his game struggled as well.
So what I see, played once in 11 months because of COVID in 21 to 22. So I don't know if it was like travel stuff.
Yeah,
That it could be differently, but
yeah. There was a
that was
couple of
just a quick
reasons,
glance.
but like
But he
I
barely had
just
any. His wife had issues with a child delivery, but that was
there
in 19.
that was the one
But
I was
like I
thinking
think,
of, though. So that was
okay,
when I thought that because obviously the travel thing happens to a lot of people. So that's what I remember.
yeah.
He had like that real serious off the course issue with his wife, and then obviously COVID kind of knocks people out. A little bit more settled this year. It's only happened this past week, but I'll take it and see what happens at 125 to 1.
Yep, ideal. I like it. So, like I said, I got the excitement of Manu Gandhis. But I can't forget. I'm going to try to go in sequential or numerical order here, and I have a selection at 70 to 1. Still here, he's down to 50s in most spots. There's a 70 still out there, and it's somebody you got to be impressed, Tom. We're 6 shows, and this is the first time I'm betting him this year,
Yeah, I was
right?
surprised actually.
Old Sky would have just ripped this guy every single week, and that's totally fine because he is exceptional, and it's nobody. It's somebody. If you looked at like an amateur career, I'm not sure there's anybody out there that can really hold a candle at times to what Jaden Trace-Scaper was coming up through South Africa. There's been the best of the best of these amateurs, and this kid. I mean, he's. I mean, and we can say kid about him. I say kid often. I mean, he is still. What is he? He's not. He's 21 now, almost 22, but if you looked into, he had 9 amateur victories in 2019. I mean, that's really, as strong of a year as you get in amateur golf. And then he almost won early on in his professional career on the DP World Tour, like in South African events. And then he had a struggle on the Challenge Tour in 21. I would say he was okay in 2022, not even that exceptional, really found his stride on the Sunshine Tour. And now he has gotten consistent starts on the DP World Tour, and he's gotten 3 top 20s, actually 4 top 20s now this season. But last week, again, if you look at kind of that closing stretch of what it was, he was first on Sunday in strokes gained tee to green. He was third on Saturday in tee to green, and he vaulted himself up the leaderboard. I just love seeing guys that start slower and finish strong. And when we've looked at Jaden's game, Scaber's game overall, what he was built on when we've seen him in strokes gained statistics, is he's just an exceptional ball striker. Literally one of the better ones on tour in the events he would play. So to me, not that it's different than any other week, but you do have to really hit the ball well
Yeah,
when the
100%.
when the when it's difficult out there, right?
Oh,
Like
you
that
did you
is,
you feel stupid every week saying it's a tee to green week because that is how you play
yes,
golf, right? But there are certain golf courses, and I think we've probably got another one over in the States, right, with the Honda Classic, where tee to green play really does matter and it really does come to the fore. And a golf course that's a little bit tricked up, where I think having that kind of additional distance and getting yourself out of trouble a couple of times is going to be really important as well.
yeah, 1,000,000%, totally agree. And the last couple of winners have putted it extremely well. Like
Yeah.
you are gonna have to save yourself. You're gonna try to, but man, I like in some of those. I think it was Alfred Dunhill, or there are the one at Leopard Creek, right, can be very difficult too, where he has held his own at times. So I'm really big into him this week, 70s there. And then I have one final selection. And there's actually, I didn't do this on purpose. I promise I got excited, but there's a tie in between Scaper and my 500 to 1 selection here. So, um, again, you knew there was going to be one of these this week. I was
Has
proud last week we
has to
made
be
the
one.
cut with ours, right? People are betting Sharma at 33s to 1. I've got Kartik Sharma at 500 to 1. And that tie-in from Jaden Trace-Scaper to Kartik Sharma is they were on the 2019 Juniors President's Cup team together.
Wow.
So that's a pull. That is a pull right there, Tom.
I'm already sold. So whatever you
Yeah.
say next, I'm just going to not listen. But
But those are like juniors is a level before. What's the Walker Cup? The Walker Cup is
yeah,
top amateurs, is like the Ryder Cup for the best amateurs in the game. The Junior President's Cup is high schoolers basically, when you're younger, playing in the President's Cup. And so you get big names from both sides of the pond. And like I said, Scaper was one of the best. And that to me showed the pedigree of what Sharma had to him. I'm trying to see if I can pull up who was all on this team. And again, to me, it's like guys that, I'm at least, thinking of through. So on the U.S. side, Michael Bjornson was on that team, who we mentioned recently, Preston Summerhays. Again, 2019 is not that long ago.
no,
Preston Summerhays, who was one of the best in the game. Benjamin James, who is, I think a top 5 amateur in the world right now. And then Martin Vorster, I think Vorster was in the mix last week on the Challenge Tour. I could be wrong, but he was the other name that was bigger there besides Caper, and then Sharma. But why, in addition to that, so that just built up pedigree when this guy kind of popped in when I was looking at. So there's about 25 guys that are like PGA Tour of India players this week who are getting starts. This is pretty cool. I mean, the European Tour does this too. And I guess if you click around enough, but you wouldn't expect to be able to find this. You can see the home courses for these guys, right? If you go onto their PGA Tour of India's profiles, and there was 2 golfers in the field whose home course was DLF. So you get to pare things down a little bit. From there, then you kind of dig in and you see, okay, Kartik Sharma got to play in that end of the fall PGA Tour of India's event there, and he was the 54-hole leader at that event. So course form there, he was a 36-hole and 54-hole leader, which I love that, And if you keep going, I think the winner of the event was Varun Parikh, who
Was he the
actually
other one that was the home course guy, or no?
no, the
Oh,
other one was Veer. The guy's been around for a little bit. Veer Alawat. He hasn't played as well. He just played he's getting into the Asian Tour events. He had 3 top tens in a row on the PGA Tour of India, and then he missed the 3 Asian Tour events in a row. So it's tough to know with his exact form. But he was miscut. And the last 2 times at DLF, 26 years old, where Sharma is third. And when he played it, he had played 2 times before in 19 and 18, but he's only 22 years old right now. So he was playing as a 17 and 18-year-old at those events. He hasn't kicked on. I was talking to Brad Todd about him a little bit. He hasn't kicked on. Brad said he's been quite a bit in these India events so far. Hasn't, I don't think he has gotten over the line yet with a victory.
no.
Let me check here. Right? No. But he finished 3rd or 4th the last time out, which was just last week or 2 weeks ago on there. So you have recent form, you have the course connection, you have the pedigree, and you have 500 to 1, Tom. That is what I look for in a long shot. So I will be going to the windows with Kartik Sharma.
When you look, right, so it's nice to look at the pedigree, and of course this is in India, right? But second, fourth, third, fourth, eighth, 10th, eighth already, all across between 2021 and 2023. The guy isn't
Yep.
old, so like he can only play where we say this all the time. When people say, "Oh, it's only on that tour," there's only a certain amount of starts they're going to get, and if they play 4 or 5 times on these different events and play poorly, then fine. But what he did in the Hero India Open in 2018 is irrelevant because he was like 5 years old. So the low Sharma market might be quite interesting this week because you've got Kartik Sharma, Akshay
Yes.
Sharma, and Shubhankar Sharma.
Yep.
I imagine Shubhankar Sharma is quite a strong favourite in that, but Kartik's fun. Sounds like a good bet. Like you said earlier, Goodman Christensen was 1,000 to 1. He's now 300 to 1 because they're playing scared. So I mean, this guy's going to go from 500 to 50 next week.
For sure. I'll give credit. I tweeted about earlier. Paul Williams. He tipped 1,250 to 1 Varun Parikh, who won here at the course. I think he won by like 4 or 5 in that event. He ousted Sharma in the final round, beat him by plenty. He hasn't been in the best short term form. Sachin Baisoya won
Yes.
last event out, and then he was top 10 at that event. I think he was second through either the first round or the second round. So you have that. You have Prakash Shunhan, same thing, top 10 last week, top 10, top 5 at the DLF event. So you have a few of those in the range. Sharma's the one that I'm going to go with, but you can make some arguments for other golfers. And
Yeah.
Chika Papa, he's somebody who won the PGA Tour event of India event. That was a stronger field to end out the year. He's a classic guy, so I think he's interesting. Fitzpatrick's brother's back in the field after being on full
Yeah,
swing.
that
You
was
know,
that was the one. Like, I mean, like all
yep,
joking aside, like Basoya was the one that caught my eye, like because he just had that
correct,
recent
yes,
win. Okay, but I like what you've dug into. Like, I saw Kartik Sharma, thought he finished like fourth at the course, and I was like, is that second at the course? Sorry, and the fourth recently is like, is that just like a full storm or what is it? And so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm gonna like you, I'm going to join in with you and go with Kartik
Yes.
Sharma.
Good.
Um, yeah, Alex Fitzpatrick. I just thought the number was a bit weak.
Yeah. What's he been
Look,
doing?
nothing, right? Like he's
Yeah.
was he just been watching Netflix because
Probably.
because he we got really quite high on him for a little period of time, and I felt like I was going to bet him every week, and I guess he's just not had the starts to play, but I was expecting kind of like 100 to 1 about him going again. Like there's nothing we know about Alex Fitzpatrick that says he's going to play well in India, right? So I'm not going to take 50 to 1.
The one thing that I am struggling with is I remember vividly wanting to go and betting him at Valderrama. That was the spot to
Yeah,
me, and I think he held his own through like 36.
he
Like
did. Yeah.
he went up the leaderboard a lot and then would come right back down. So maybe it's not the best fit, but I know Access is on it, and running the numbers from somebody who has had a limited amount of starts, it does make sense. But it is a little discouraging not knowing his recent form. So
The only
we'll
other
see.
long shot, Daniel Gale is someone that's playing well in Australia.
Yes.
That was the only thing I noticed. I mean, I don't know anything about him. I couldn't pick him up out of a lineup of one. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know who Daniel Gale is. I just saw his recent form. He's finished 8th and 2nd the last 2 starts in Australia. I think it's like Dave Michelucci that wins those events every week. So not a surprise to see that he didn't win. But yeah, like if you just want some, I think this is a week where you can take some recent form guys, even if it's at lower tiers, because one, it's a volatile golf course, and two, it's just like a weaker field. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. Like, yes, you've got the 4 or 5 top guys, and we've kind of run through them and who we like, but once that happens, it thins out really quickly. But
People feel this way about the Honda Classic
yeah,
at the PGA Tour. This is that times 10, right? You're getting
yeah,
one of the weaker DP World Tour events at a wild and crazy course that brings a lot into play. That's exactly, I think, what you're kind of looking at this week too.
yeah. I think we're done.
So
Like, I don't know that we've got anything unless you have. I mean, unless you've got another.
no, I
There's a
mean, you don't want to hear
fourth
me
Sharma.
rattle off anything. No,
uh,
honestly, you want to laugh. I found one too. He won one of the qualifying school events on the PGA Tour of India, but he's only an amateur, so he's got a little
Yeah,
bit
I
to
mean,
go.
I feel like we're taking ones that was just removed from high school. That's probably close enough, right? Um,
Yes.
but no, I'm excited.
Okay.
I think it's a good
Yeah.
week, and I'm excited about the 501 pick. So I'm going to summarise. So,
Yep. Wait.
John, oh
Nope. Nope.
no,
Audio listeners, got to give them a shout out. Not going to forget about it. If you're commuting, we appreciate you. If you throw this up when you're driving, you can find us on any of your podcast platforms. The Mix, Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets. Mayo Media Network supporting us all around. We appreciate the listeners, reviews, ratings, subscribers. Goes a really long way. Again, it's a major next week. So we appreciate all the encouragement before we head to the Magical Kenya Open. Now, Tom, your picks.
now my picks. And yes, all very important things, especially when we've had a couple of winners. It's nice to put the reviews in there.
Amen.
Jung Wang, 25 to 1. Pablo Larrazabal, 35 to 1. Alexander Kanapa, or Napa, we don't know yet, 60 to 1. Thomas Akin at 125 to 1. And Kartik Sharma at 500 to 1.
Yes. Amen. Are we going with Yannick Paul, 20 to 1? Guido Migliozzi, 40 to 1. Alexander Canape, 60 to 1. Barro's going to roll at that pronunciation. Jaden Trey Scaper, 70 to 1. Banu Gondis, there was 250s there early. Again, it could be as low as 100. I'm okay with whatever you're posting triple digit wise with him. And then Kartik Sharma, 500 to 1. We're going to be top 20 in him. We're going to definitely be first round leadering him as well. I'm excited for this week, Tom. This is a fun event, and you get to mix up. And the early starts are kind of weird in the States, especially because it's like before you go to bed. Like BK
Yeah.
was out here betting Olson with you, and he was watching the DP World Tour at 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
just rolling the night into it on a Saturday.
Well,
But
the thing is, like, it was early enough for me. So when I saw BK on there, I was like, it was like he said 3 a.m., but it was like 2:45. Like it was
yeah, you think
embarrassing.
he
Like
made it through?
yeah,
I don't know,
probably.
man. BK
I,
probably had a good Saturday night.
yeah, probably. I struggled. So and we started at 5 a.m. over here. So
No, I mean I had to give a shout out to one of my favorite tweets too last week. So Eric Hubley at the Mighty Hubs So Kyle Porter, from CBS tweeted,
Yeah.
what's your, I think I might be a sicko moment from the last few years. He goes, I just bet on Gudmundur Christensen outright each way first round leader for the Thailand Classic. So, you know, we're sickos. We all are. I appreciate all the sickos out there, Tom. Let's hit another
I do.
winner for them this week.
That would be great. And if it's Kartik Sharma, I'll feel even better about it.
Oh man, we might be going to the Hero Indian Open next year
We are
if
we
he
are going.
wins.
Like that is a definite.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
I'm
All
excited.
right. Well, good luck everybody, and we'll catch you for the major next week.
Thanks, guys.